Okay, so part three of this ending of Sturgess here. Okay, we're with Scott here. And Scott, where are you from originally?
I was born in Livingston, Montana.
Okay.
Come from a ranching family that goes back to the 1800s there.
Okay, so you're pretty familiar with, and this particular part of this is about the Native American. This is about broken treaties actually, and how Native Americans are being used. And I've tried to go to some of these, some of the reservations, and I've tried to ask some of them about, just exactly what's going on. And it's like this. So, this man, how long have you, talk to me about your life. Tell me what's been going on for the last, say, 40, 50 years in your life. You came from Montana, right? And then what did you do?
Yeah, I finished high school and I worked power line construction for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was about 45 years old, I got into ranching full-time, cattle ranching. Ranched on the Flathead Indian reservation.
And that's in North Dakota?
No, that is in western Montana.
Okay.
It's the Confederate Salish Kootenai
Okay.
tribes there.
And you lease the land from them?
I leased some from the tribe. I had some deeded land. I was in all kinds of different arrangements there to run cattle, grazing association, mostly leased though.
Now tell me about how is the U.S. government involved in, tell me about the Native American situation as you see it today. What is the government doing for them, or what haven't they done for them?
Well, I was involved in 10 years in the Confederate Salish and Kootenai Water Compact. And what that was they wanted to quantify all the water and the rights to the water on not only the Flathead Indian Reservation, but it actually it would define water ownership and control all the way out to the ocean on the Columbia River. So I was involved in a 10-year battle there and learned quite a bit about the Indians' relationship with the federal government.
How is that? What does that mean?
Well,
tell me about what did you learn? Some of the just hit some of the points that have been on your mind about.
First of all, I love the Native American people. They've always been dear to my heart. It's not the people, it's the politics. The government has used those people there and other reservations, no doubt, as a tool, political tool, to acquire back real property rights by claiming that the Aboriginal people of the land have first rights, which is a legitimate argument.
Right.
But
how do they switch it around, though?
What they did is they would use the argument that they were the first people here and that all the water, they should have the senior water right. And what that did then is that instead of the private landowners under the compact having a water right, they became a water customer, subservient to the tribes.
And those people then therefore are wards of the state.
They are
of the federal government.
That's how it operates. They live on a socialistic program, and they are subservient to the federal government through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so every program that goes on the reservation is not a sovereign program to the tribes. It's a hand-me-down program that the Bureau of Indian Affairs has direct influence on, although they allocate certain areas of control to the tribes, the tribal councils, but at the end of the day, the government owns the tribes.
Simply because the BLM is supposedly like the big nanny for all of their land. Yeah?
BIA.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs, yeah.
BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs.
And it's just a pyramid organization, and the more money and the more power they can accumulate, the more secure that their organization is. So
No.
it's a top-down
No, I
pyramid organization.
I have heard from a number of people across our country that I've been in the Creek Nation, and then over here with a friend of mine, Joe Ray. He talks about the tribal council and how corrupt that is, and how they don't really do anything for the actual natives that are here, like the members of the tribe.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience as well?
Well, it is, and it's, well, look who they've learned from. Let's say they're a ward of the federal government. How is their own federal government viewed in the eyes of the populace off the reservation? You know, they've learned it very well on how these things are done. And yeah, the corruption is there because the people do not have the say-so. They do not have the power. It's an illusion of power.
And so these sovereign nations are actually just little controlled
They're
prison camps.
They're puppets.
They're puppets.
They're puppets.
Wow. Well, I also have somebody else here that I would like to interview, okay? And this is, we're going to go to a different, we're going to go to the socialistic. And Janeen here, you've done a number of workshops on the reservation, haven't you?
Look at the crisis shelters, women's crisis shelters on the reservation, and so I've had the opportunity to know a lot of really wonderful Native American people that are trying to do positive things on the reservations. And
Well, why would they want to do that? Is it? I thought it was great there. I thought it was like you go, hey, what would it be like if you had your own nation, right? Okay,
Right.
Is that the reality?
it's complex.
Let's talk about that.
Well-
Let's try and tease the elements out. First, what's the most prevalent thing on for women on the Native American reservations right now, Amy? What, in your opinion? Okay, what do you think? So violence,
Procreation, and is there violence? Yes, there's a lot of violence on the Indian reservations.
Okay, but let's go back to the procreation thing. What's up with that?
Well, you know, Native American families like to have large families, and that's a quiver, you know, a quiver full of arrows. But the sad part about the family structure on the Native American reservations, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is
Right.
it's very distorted and very distended because there's so many, you know, I'll just use it as an example. You know, some of the women I've worked with have, you know, 5 kids, 5 fathers. It's kind of hard to build a family structure around things like that. And it's unfortunate. And I don't know, I'm not judging that. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that it's distended and it's confusing and
Okay, I know this is a sensitive issue, but it's a cultural issue.
it is a cultural issue, and the sad thing too is that I think people feel trapped in the welfare system is what they depend on, and the more children they have, the more welfare they get. And it's a no-win situation because I think a lot of people want to think that the prejudices on reservations, this has been my experience too, it's not really Indians against white or natives against whites, it's natives against natives. They don't really endorse somebody becoming successful in their own res even. There's a lot of professional jealousy. And then also too, like I've done contracting on the reservation, construction contracting, and you know, we've hired some wonderful people, but they can't make too much money because they will lose their welfare. And so in being an outside contractor going there to build a particular building, I would lay them off like $5 before they lose that welfare, because I don't want to be responsible for them losing their welfare. That's a lot of work to get back into the system. I don't want to be responsible 3 months after we're gone that they can't get food stamps or feed their family.
And what about okay, so the bid system, when you did do that work, what was going on with the tribal council with the bid system?
Well, actually, this bid was let through Farm Home Administration. So it was we built it on the Pioneer Indian Reservation, which is a sovereign nation, but it was actually let through the federal government. So the money was let through at that time Farmers Home Administration. But we had to hire Native Americans, if at all possible, which we did, and we had a lot of very good employees, very good craftsmen, very knowledgeable people. And if there was more happening on the reservation, those people could be successful, but there's so few opportunities for long-term business.
So we have a nation that's isolated, basically, and as Scott says, it's isolated, but it's controlled.
Oh, whoa. I think I stepped
Excuse
on
me.
his toe.
Yeah, we got a lot of people here right now. People, I mean, this is the end of the thing, and there's
Scott
a lot
has
of
a
bikes.
really cute dog. You should.
It's
show
got.
him.
Let's take a look at Scott's dog. There we go. There's this doggy right there. What kind of dog is that?
It's an Australian Shepherd.
Oh yeah, he's such a good dog.
He's attracted a lot of attention,
Yeah, he has.
right?
So Scott, you were listening to this. Can you speak to that kind of stuff? Violence on the reservation, and you said you were 32 years on it. You saw a lot of stuff going on.
Not every res is the same.
Yeah, I
out
did,
there.
and it's just reflective of the total breakdown in society in general. And on the reservation, it's stronger. It's seen more there because the people there are more dependent on a social program, and it's not their fault. It's the way that they were handled. The reservations were supposed to be an interim process that was supposed to be dissolved. It was just to be a break-in to assimilate the people, give them time to assimilate into society and to become landowners and business owners and such. To come right from the bush and to jump into a culture that's hundreds of years ahead of them in their development
Thousands.
couldn't happen, or thousands. Couldn't happen overnight. So, and they recognize that. But instead of the reservations and the government's involvement with the tribal people, the Aboriginal people, it didn't happen. Instead, they were viewed as a people group that could be controlled with federal funding and federal policy, and for all kinds of reasons. So it's not the people's fault. It would have the problems were created and propagated, and they exist because of the administration of the Native American people.
Wow. And so the fallout right now is apparently just like apparently just like in the African American community, and possibly in communities where you have a lot of poverty, where you have a lot of ignorance, you get a lot of people just beating each other up on black on black crime, Native American on Native. That's been confirmed with a lot of guys that I know, and it's kind of terrible. I think Pine Ridge has the largest murder rate in the nation. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think that when people don't have ownership of real property without it being administrated and controlled, that people don't have the kind of work ethic and the goals that it takes to keep themselves busy and moving forward. So it's kind of like the Bible says, idle hands make for mischief.
Right.
And certainly people, when they're not busy making a living for themselves, and there's all these social programs, they've got extra time on their hands, and out of that comes mischief. And there again, it's not their fault, because it's encouraged because of the pyramid system. The ones at the top want to ensure that they always have their administrative jobs
And control
of these people,
Right.
so that
so they don't mind them killing each other off. Divide and conquer, as Machiavelli says.
sure.
Right? And so you see this in Montana. I've seen this in the Cree Nation in Oklahoma. Oklahoma was supposed to be a Native American state. I mean, there was something like 38 or 40 tribes that were in the Trail of Tears and what have you. Can you speak about that as far as what happened? Those people should have been in Oklahoma, I guess, but they didn't go there. Maybe they came back. What's the Trail of Tears have to do with the people that you were with in out there in Montana?
As far as I know, there was really no connection with that reservation to the Trail of Tears, as far as I know.
So they were subjugated, just basically subjugated.
Subjugated, yeah. And with the Flathead Indian reservation, most of the tribal members there are not full-blood Indians. The intermarrying with the French and white man there has made it a multiracial. Yeah. So most of the Indians there that are tribal members have a lower percentage, probably half and less of their native blood.
Wow.
I don't know what the percentage of full bloods are, but it's fairly low there.
So you're not ranching there anymore, are you?
No, I'm not.
And did you sort of get driven out, or what happened? Why did you choose not to work with the?
There was a number of things. The tribes were able to, through all kinds of federal programs, buy back most of the deeded land on the reservation, and so the availability of pasture land to rent, they wouldn't rent to a non-tribal member. So I basically was squeezed out by the availability of grassland to use to run a number of cows to be able to make a living.
Yeah, because there's a small profit in that, huh? Small margin.
Pretty small margin these days.
I listen to this thing called Feeder Flash. Have you heard of this guy, Feeder Flash? He actually goes around and talks about the market for beef, okay? What can you say right now about the market for beef in relation to the meatless market and cattle ranching in particular, like fattening up calves? Just give me a little bit, because I have a little bit of knowledge, but hey, you're a rancher, so what do you think as far as cattle, the future of cattle? What do you think about all that right now?
Well, it's gonna, I believe the future is gonna go the way that the chickens, the pork, the dairy, and those kind of things.
Those markets are done now, pork especially, right?
Yeah, when the government gets involved and subsidizes things, just like farming, big farmers are farming the government.
And I can actually confirm that. All the way starting from Texas, all the way up to Pennsylvania, and all the way out here, up to a certain point, there was nothing but two crops that I saw. That would be corn and soybeans. I mean,
yeah.
Really? I mean, seriously, yeah. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions of acres. Now, don't farmers have points of view anymore, or is that just the market? Right. So what about the meat industry in relation to that? So you're saying that the old school independent rancher.
Yeah. What's happened is the terminal markets, which is your big feedlots and your packing houses. There's only a few that own those. And so the cow-calf man, the man that raises commercial cattle and sells his calves every fall to go into a feedlot, has absolutely no control or nothing to say about the market. The market is already set and controlled by the big conglomerates, the big packers and the big feeders. And so the small family operation is gone the way of the small family dairy, the small pork producers, and the chicken producers. It's all become totally controlled by the government. Even though there are cow-calf producers out there still on the land, on their historic acreages, they are subservient to the big packers. It's all consolidated now.
So in relation to the COVID right now, this has been happening, this rancher thing's been happening for a while.
Yeah.
So with the COVID, and then you're walking into stores like Walmart or whatever, I don't know if you do any of the shopping there, but you see everybody that's like, they're wearing masks, they're complying once again. So the chickens, the dairy, the pork industry, and now the last bastion of, ranchers, cowboys, that's freedom right there, supposedly, right? But now they're subservient. But then the general population is now just complying. So, in a way, you think the country's already taken over?
It is, and then the way to control the people is if you can control the food.
So food is a weapon.
And the finances, yeah. If there's total control of the food and the resources, you've got to control the people. There's no more freedom. it's just an illusion. And that's what we have today, is we basically have an illusion of freedom. It has all been legislated away. It's all been consolidated into the big conglomerates, federally funded. And these money trails all go back to the Federal Reserve. They go to back to Agenda 21.
City of London,
United Nations.
the Queen.
Yes, and I could say a lot of things
And the
that
Zionists.
would be unacceptable.
Yeah.
The trail goes back
To the Zionists, and it goes
Yeah.
back to the Queen, the City of London, the Vatican, and Washington District of Columbia, which is, let's all be reminded, that's not a state.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
Well, this is about it. I mean, we pretty much exhausted all the categories. I think Sturgess pretty much says it all. There is one group that doesn't take any shit anymore, and that would be the bikers. And they came here in mass, and I'm just gonna, this is a really special video because, yeah, the chances of meeting this gentleman right here, very slim. I came here to do a video with Janeen because her dad owned this bank, and you're sitting here with your Australian Shepherd. We had a great time. This is a great interview. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time, brother. I really
Thank
do,
you very
brother.
much.
Yeah. All right, so 12 Soul out. Voices the voiceless. Take care, everybody.